Well, I haven't seen these documents, and as I understand it, neither has the Minister for Immigration. So these are, I'm not quite sure of their status. I don't know what their status is. I can just say that we will continue as a government to ensure that we do everything we can to keep Australians safe at home, and as far as we're able to, safe abroad. And we'll do everything we can to ensure that we maintain control of our borders. So, and which of course then enables us to have a generous and very compassionate humanitarian program, as we discussed. As far as future policies are concerned, I can assure you that in terms of people's rights, there is only one class of citizenship in Australia. So all citizens have got the same rights, but they also have the same obligations. And one of those obligations is obviously to obey the law. And so that applies whether you were born here or whether you took out your citizenship last week. Ideally, assuming it's genuine, ideally these things do not get leaked, if you like, but that happens from time to time.
Will you investigate the source of the leak?
Sorry?
Will you investigate the source of the leak?
Well, I haven't yet had an opportunity to discuss it with the Minister. So it's if in fact the leak did occur as you describe, and if the document is in the terms that it's been referred to on Late Line, then no doubt the Minister will be looking into it. But my understanding is that he hasn't seen it. He hasn't got to him at any rate.
This is a document which is marked at the top sensitive cabinet. It is a document which is part of the Turnbull government's cabinet processes, and indeed when you look at it, it deals with a period of time since Malcolm Turnbull's been Prime Minister and dealing with policy in the first half of this year. So this is clearly a document of the government, and I simply don't accept what the Minister is saying in relation to that, and what it portrays is a government which is deeply divided. This is a document intended for the National Security Committee, and it has found its way into the public domain. That only happens if you have members of your own government who are out there leaking. It only happens if you're a government that's divided.
So is this a product of internal treachery in your assessment, or kite flying?
Oh, this is unquestionably an issue, I would think, of internal division. But I tell you what, if it's kite flying, that ought to be of almost greater concern to the Australian people, because the substance of this document is deeply worrying. I mean, we all understand the need to deal with questions of national security, and we've been working with the government throughout this entire term in a bipartisan way there when it comes to strengthening the character test, dealing with citizenship legislation and the like. But this verges dangerously down the path of putting in place a discriminatory immigration policy. Now, for decades it has been a bipartisan issue between both Labor and Liberal that we don't have a discriminatory immigration policy in this country. If this is where the government wants to take us, we are returning to a very dark past indeed.